again, guys, and welcome to another episode of Superman Month. And this time I'll be reviewing the final live-action Superman movie prior to the Man of Steel, simply titled Superman Returns. Now, this movie was released in 2006 and was directed by Bryan Singer and stars Brandon Routh as Superman and Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. In terms of plot, it's initially a sequel to Superman 2, in which Superman has left Earth in order to really just have closure with his previous world, Krypton. But as he finds something, he then returns back to Earth and notices that the Earth and everyone he knew has kind of moved on without him. The people of Earth don't seem to have missed him very often. Lois Lane has moved on dating someone else and having a kid of her own. And so it's really the story of Superman trying to revive the connections that he had with the people that meant the most to him before he left. And Lex Luthor, as always, manages to find his way to the Fortress of Solitude because he's been there before. He manages to take the little crystals which gather all the information that Superman learned from, and mixing that with kryptonite creates this giant kryptonite island. Yes, this is going to have spoilers. And initially he tries to kill Superman that way, and it's just a whole bunch of different things, which, is maybe the main problem of this film. Now, I would just like to state this right now, that there's been a lot of controversy going around this film. It was kind of up in the loop whether it would be actually made or not, and there's a whole controversy of, Bryan Singer leaving X-Men 3, and that movie was terrible, and then making this, and a lot of people thought it was terrible. I think the biggest problem that I think people had going into this film was that they thought it was going to be a reboot instead of realizing that it was a sequel to the Christopher Reeves Superman films. And that is another main problem that I have, that this movie has, is that that type of Superman film simply didn't work back in 2006. I think people were ready to see a different type of Superman film, and we're probably going to see that type of Superman film in Man of Steel later on in June. Now, I'd also like to state right now that I actually did not think that Brandon Routh was a bad Superman. I really thought he was a really great Superman who actually embodied Christopher Reeves. He just seemed to be a much younger version, and that goes along with the rest of the cast. They're good characters. I mean, they were casted very well. They definitely do their parts. It's just they don't really carry that essence of older versions of these classic characters. This would have worked better if it had been a prequel to the original Christopher Reeves Superman films, although then that wouldn't make much sense because Superman 1 was really where he, made his debut, so you kind of have that whole continuity problem. Another problem that I have with this film, unfortunately, is that there are a lot of inconsistencies. Like, if this is supposed to take place just a very few number of years after the Superman 2, then how come I'm seeing giant plasma TVs? How come I'm seeing modern cars? It's just the whole time frame thing. Bryan Singer probably wasn't aware of it, that he probably should have made things look more like in the 80s, and that's just a flaw on his part. And Kevin Spacey's performance of Lex Luthor I thought was okay, but he doesn't really carry that well-calculated Lex Luthor. He's more of a cartoon character of Lex Luthor than a much more believable, threatening Lex Luthor. Now, this movie does have plenty of visuals. It's got a number of really cool action, well, maybe not a number of cool action scenes, but one really cool action scene, which I'm sure you've seen the trailer, is the airplane rescue, which, is probably the best Superman action scene to date, in my opinion. And I'm going to make this statement right now. I'm a big fan of posters, and this Superman Returns poster is still my favorite Superman live-action poster. I even like it about more than the Man of Steel posters. Those ones are good, but they just don't quite have that epicness that I would love to see from Superman, and this one clearly does. Now, despite it having lots of problems and getting a lot of elements right, it kind of fits in the middle between Superman films. It's definitely better than 3 and 4, but it just doesn't quite reach the epicness and really grandeur of Superman's 1 and 2. So to give it a middle-like score, I'm going to give Superman Returns... come on, people, help me out. I'm stuck between a B- and a C+. I'll be nice. I'm gonna give it a B minus. Now, for those of you who do not like Superman Returns, I perfectly understand your flaws with it, but I personally just didn't have many problems with it. I can acknowledge the problems. I can see what could have been made better, what wasn't, and it does, in my opinion, get a lot more right than it does get wrong. If you like this movie review, please like, comment down below, and please join me next week when I finally get into the animated movies of Superman movies, when I review Superman Brainiac Attacked. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.